Hello, you blood-sucking freaks. Tonight we're talking about vampires. And you may not know this about me. Vampires are near and dear to my heart. Some of the first horror stuff I ever watched, I was crawling on the floor as my older brother and sister watched the late horror show when we lived in Newton Grove, North Carolina. I would crawl on the floor and look out from behind the couch to watch whatever nightmarish movie they were watching. And this one was one of those hammer vampire movies where the blood was so bright red and everything was over-sexualized. I remember hiding behind the couch so quietly. I don't know if my siblings knew I was there or not, and they were just like, hey, let's let him be tormented tonight. Let's let him have nightmares. I watched that movie, and from that moment, vampires kind of cemented themselves in my mind as a staple of the horror genre, as they should. As we started filming this, I almost put some blood capsules in my mouth and came out with a blah, blah, but that was not to be. Tonight, my guest host is John Avina. John is a comic creator and photographer from Chicago. He incorporates folklore from his Mexican heritage into all of his work. If you've ever seen him at a convention, this guy hustles. He puts together one of the best convention tables you've ever seen. He puts out so many books, and he does it all himself. It's all a project of passion for him, and he hasn't yet let the comic book industry suck the life out of him as a vampire would suck the life out of its victims. All right, John, thank you for joining me. Thanks for being here to talk about one of the icons of the horror genre. We're going to talk vampires. Now, when I said that to you earlier, you kind of got excited. So I'm assuming you're a vampire kid.
I am, yeah.
So let's just get it out of the way because everybody has a different take on this. What kind of vampire kid are you? Do you like the classic European Eurotrash vampire? Do you like the down and dirty vampire? And be honest, are you a sparkly vampire guy? I need to know.
So I wouldn't be married if it wasn't for sparkly vampires. Our first date was Twilight at the movie theater.
Oh, wow. Okay, so...
And I beat my wife at Twilight trivia. So that's like a claim to fame of mine. But I love the down and dirty vampires. I love the monstrous, this is a curse vampires. Those are my favorites.
All right. It's funny you say that about trivia. I think it was last year. I do a Halloween trivia every year. It's every Thursday night or whatever. We go to participate in Halloween trivia. And one night was supposed to be vampires. So I got really excited about it. And then we got there and it was all Twilight. I wish we'd have had you. I wish we'd have had you there because I couldn't remember the name of the town. I knew it was some sort of utensil, but I could not draw forks out of my head. I don't dislike sparkly vampires in Twilight. I just I'm not smart about them. So
yeah,
but I think I'm a little more down and dirty vampire. I'm a little more I don't like a classy vampire. I like
right.
I like a vampire who is completely not classy, like me. All right. Do you remember your first exposure to vampire mythology?
Yeah, there's an old black and white lucha movie, and it's this like lucha wrestler, and he's taking on the brides of Dracula.
That's all.
And it's a very like exploitative vampire film, but it was awesome because like they were turning into bats, they were doing all the classic vampire things, but they were like these monstrous women. So like at first they were like very elegant, like woe is me type, and then just these like blood hunting creatures, and I was like, oh, this is amazing, what is this? And then I think from there my uncles are like, we could pretty much show him from dusk till dawn. But it was like that type of film.
I don't remember my first. I don't remember what was the title of that?
Santo and the Brides of Dracula.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember my first full-blown vampire, that I encountered. I remember my older brother and sister watching the late horror show one night, and I snuck into the room and I hid behind the couch, and I looked out from behind the couch to watch the movie, and it was definitely a vampire movie. And I think in my mind, I know it was a Hammer movie, and I think it might have been one of those, like, the bride. It was a Bride of Dracula type thing. Or
Yeah.
I know it was a woman with very red blood dripping out of her mouth, and it terrorized me. But beyond that, I'm not sure what. I think that was my first. Maybe reading about vampires in Famous Monsters magazine or something. I liked. I mean, I was aware of them. But I think that was the first movie I ever even caught a glimpse of, and I only caught a little bit. I had to bow out pretty quick. That bright red blood kind of messed me up.
Those Hammer ones were great because Peter Cushing as Van Helsing and stuff. Those are classic.
What I didn't realize when I first watched some of those, like Christopher Lee in the second one, I think he has no lines. He's not like talking about the children of the night or anything. He has no. All he does is hiss. He hisses and drips blood out of the corners of his mouth, and I think that's what made him so scary.
Yeah,
and it's weird that he didn't talk because he has the look. He has the nice coiffed hair, slicked back, and everything. Yeah, yes, yes. And but it was a little weird that he didn't talk, but it made him a little more awful. Now, I know we're going to talk about favorites. Have you ever watched, and this isn't going to come up on my list, but it's worth watching. Speaking of Hammer, the 7 Golden Vampires?
I don't think so.
All right, so you need to check this out because it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. It was a Shaw Brothers martial arts movie, but they tied it into the Hammer mythology. So at the beginning, the vampire, it wasn't played by Christopher Lee, but Dracula looks like Dracula. It looks like Christopher Lee Dracula. He's got the collar and the hair. But then to conduct his shenanigans, he transforms himself into like a Japanese monk for whatever reason. Because the footage from the Shaw Brothers movie was all Japanese monks, vampires. So he changes in the first 5 minutes of the movie, he changes into a different type of vampire. That was how they connected it. But if you like to see martial artists fighting vampires,
yes,
it's amazing.
I will have to check that one out.
So that's my freebie. What I want to do, though, is I want us to take turns. And this is sort of, I try to figure out what we'd call this. I don't know what it's called. It's like our favorite vampire stuff, whatever. Because I want us to take turns. We're just going to talk about movies, books, games, whatever floats your boat that really kind of gets you going when it comes to vampires and you want to recommend to other people. And since you're my guest host today, you get to start us off.
All right, I'm going to steal my favorite one first, Curse of Strahd.
All right.
From Dungeons and Dragons. That storyline, they came out with like the Ravenloft novels. You can get them as PDFs now because the paperback's like $100. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Those I loved because Strahd is that kind of like European vampire. He is Dracula essentially.
Yeah.
But the way you can play around with him, especially being like a D&D lover, it's one of my favorite things to run, especially for new players because it really gets like the blood pumping and getting them like get their ideas out there and stuff.
First of all, it's a great module. The original module was written by Tracy Hickman and I think Margaret Weiss. I think both of them were involved in it. My apologies if they weren't, but I know that one of them was. I think. Anyway, and I remember when that module came out when I was a kid, the original version. It was so different from anything that I had played in Dungeons and Dragons. It was such a different approach to D&D that it just got me really excited about how the potential where the game could go and what you could do with it. I've probably run that adventure in one form or another a dozen times. And if you're running the Curse of Strahd, I mean, no spoilers, but does the broom kill everybody in your party every time? There's like a killer broom in the first few rooms. Yeah. I love that. I love that module. So it was not on my list, which is surprising because it's a great pick. It's a really good pick.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to start with there's some easy ones on my list, like easy recommendations. And I could say Salem's Lot. And in fact, I will. I'm going to go ahead and say Salem's Lot because it's my cheat. It's a cheat because I love the book. I think the book is awesome.
Yeah.
I think the book is written in such a haunting way and is genuinely terrifying. but I'm also going to speak up for the original TV miniseries
Okay.
that came out when I was a kid, because when I watched that when it came on television, and I don't know that I've ever seen anything that has scared me the way that original miniseries scared me. And have you seen this? Have you seen the original?
I have. Yeah.
There are a couple of scenes in that still hold up as some of the scariest stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The scene, the little boy flies up to the window. That's the one that gets everybody, and he's tapping, just tapping on the window.
Yeah.
It's pure nightmare fuel. I'll have nightmares about it tonight because we're talking about it right now. And the scene where Ben is taping tongue depressors together, and he's reciting the Lord's Prayer as the vampire's like waking up behind him, is, I still think, one of the most tense moments on television of all time. It was just so good, and it's hard to believe it was a TV movie because it was just was masterful. And if you haven't seen it, be careful, because there is like a 2-hour version. Don't watch that one. Watch the full thing. It's worth it to watch the whole thing. All right, what's next on your list?
So my next favorite, because it's my favorite type of vampire, is the movie 30 Days of the book, The 30 Days of Night Vampires.
Yeah.
I love those. I'm working on another script, and I have this a familiar that shows up in town, and I was like, oh, that's the 30 Days of Night, the guy that shows up first, the Ben Foster character. I love that, like the razor teeth piranha vampire. I think that's one of the best interpretations of that type of creature.
It's pretty well done. I mean, I like the comic, but I like the look of the movie a lot.
Yeah.
What's the name of the guy who plays the lead vampire? Because I can't remember the actor's name.
Remember his name.
I can't remember his name right now. But he was so great. And there's the scene where the guy says something like he's praying to God, and he's like, no God.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. And he doesn't have many lines besides like that. And it makes him really frightening, I think. Yeah, now I want to watch. I haven't watched that in probably 15 years, so now I want to watch that again.
It's good.
It's great. So I'll go with a movie next, and this is my favorite vampire movie. Or at least tied for my favorite vampire movie, and that is Near Dark, from the director Catherine Bigelow. Near Dark, if you're unfamiliar with it, is the story of this guy who meets a girl out in some country town, meets the girl, kind of falls in love with her instantly or whatever, and she nips him. She bites him when they're making out in the car, and he starts to transform into a vampire. And he gets caught up with her family of vampires, who are these sort of low-down, dirty, redneck, scumbag vampires. And they were played... the vampires were played by much of the cast that I was, at the time that I watched it, it was, Lance Henriksen from Aliens is the leader of the vampire. And Bill Paxton from Aliens is one of the vampires. So it's all these people who were from Aliens playing vampires. And that's when I say I like a low down, dirty vampire. I'm like, I like a vampire who is a little dusty and dirty, and they've been around, and they're sort of like I said, they're rednecks. It was a true redneck vampire movie. And I take it you haven't seen Near Dark?
I haven't. I just wrote it down. It's on my list.
I'm telling you, it's so good. And there's a scene in the middle. There's a middle, the sort of the breaking point of the movie where they go to this honky tonk. I think it's one of the best scenes in any vampire movie ever, is this extended honky tonk scene. It had great music, great acting, all of it was just so well put together and tense. It's a chef's kiss for me. The movie is hard to find for whatever reason. It's gone in and out of print. A few years ago, they released a Blu-ray, and they really twilighted it up. They made the cover look, the vampire, they're sort of shiny and handsome and romantic looking. And that's the only version I have anymore, because I had to get it as soon as it came out on Blu-ray. I think sometimes you can find it streaming. I'm sure it's online in places you can download it for, you can purchase it. It's hard to find in physical media maybe, but It's worth checking out. It's so good. All right, what's next on your list?
There's a comic called Redneck by Donny Cates.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like that one. I like the idea of the family vampire unit. I thought that was really well done. I was a big fan of that one. I think that was my first like Donny Cates like comic too that I read.
Yeah, I feel like that was a lot of people's first exposure to Donny Cates. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't his first book, but yeah.
Yeah, and I love the grandpa in the attic like aspect of it too, like the older vampire just kind of in weight. There's just a lot of really great moments in that series.
I have to feel that he was a little bit inspired by Near Dark with Redneck. It has that sort of a lot of similar feel. You know, the feeling of it's very similar in a lot of ways. I mean, it's its own story, but I feel like there's some Near Dark in Redneck's DNA.
Then I definitely got to check that one out because like I when you were describing it, I was like, oh okay, I think this is gonna coincide with my answer. I was like, cool.
Yeah, I just like those redneck vampires. All right, so my next one, a high recommendation for me, is a novel. It goes. I recommended Salem's Lot first because this novel is sort of like Salem's Lot in that it's a story of a vampire invasion, but instead of them going to a small town, they go to L.A. and these vampires just sort of spread out across L.A. And that is They Thirst by Robert McCammon.
Yeah,
it's a big, thick vampire novel. It moves really fast. It has really interesting characters, and it just if you know LA at all, it has all the sites and sites of late 80s LA, but so it definitely feels late 80s, but it's so good. They Thirst. After he did They Thirst, he did another he did like an anthology of vampire stories where the vampires, every author wrote a story about vampires taking over the world. And for whatever reason, I can't remember the title of that now. I should have probably written it down, but I'll put it in the notes for the show. But if you haven't read They Thirst, it's really good. Robert McCammon's one of my favorite writers, but They Thirst is a wonderful vampire story.
The paperback for that has one of my favorite covers. He does a lot of it kind of in the same style, but it's like the road leading up to the fangs in the air. And I love collecting like older horror like paperbacks, and I love Boy's Life, so when I grabbed that one I was like, oh, this is great. I did the audiobook for it. It was really good.
We could have a whole episode talking about Boy's Life if ever. Maybe we should just plan it, because
I'm down.
Not to get on a Robert McCammon kick, but Boy's Life is not my favorite horror novel. It is my favorite novel, period. It's so good. So maybe we'll just have to schedule that, and we'll just have to talk. We'll just have to geek out over Boy's Life for a little bit.
Yes.
What's your next pick?
My next one it's a novel. It's called Gill's All Night Fright Diner, and it's written by A. Lee Martinez, and it follows a vampire named Earl and a werewolf named Duke, and it's like a buddy cop film, but it's two vampires in a pickup truck, or it's a vampire and a werewolf in a pickup truck, just trying to get to where they're going, but they stop into this diner that's like the hellmouth, and everything is coming out of the kitchen. So it's the two of them together trying to solve this mystery in this small town. But it's hilarious. It's gross in like a really fun way. And it plays off the trope that vampires are supposed to be hot because he's very much not attractive, but people are still attracted to him because of the vampirism of it all.
Right.
And it's really great. And it's got like a really like heartwarming buddy story in like the center of it that I really like. But it's like a book that I go back to every year, every couple of months, and I reread it because it's so funny, and it's like there's great scenes of just like Cthulhu style horror happening in this small kitchen like diner. It's really good.
What's the title again?
Gill's All Night Fright Diner.
Well, you had me at the title alone was worth is worth reading the book. So that sounds awesome.
That's what got me.
Yeah, I like a good story about a vampire and a werewolf being buddies. They're so often depicted as enemies. So
yeah,
nice to see them being friends for a change.
Yeah.
You started with a role-playing game, so I'm gonna go back to a role-playing game for my next pick. I was a big Vampire the Masquerade fan many years back and played many Vampire the Masquerade campaigns. I still have all of the Vampire the Masquerade books in my office. I think the books have really nice inspirational information, and I like the way they're put together, so I keep them handy at all times. But I love that game. It's gone through different iterations and different versions, but the original sort of green-backed Vampire the Masquerade, I think it just really had some awesome vampire stuff in it. Just awesome mythology around the world, and I like the whole idea of these different vampire clans that they kind of introduced. And if you're a gamer, I feel like that game changed role-playing games going forward because they had that whole clan structure, where you're a character, but you're not just, you're different, different clans, and they have different motivations and dislikes and likes and interactions with the other clans, and it kind of creates this tension and dynamic content between the between the players. And I love that, and I think a lot of games afterwards pick that sort of method up.
I played Vampires of the Masquerade, and I loved it. I want to go back to it, but we just got we're doing Curse of Strahd right now, so I think I'm kind of upset. Yeah.
Also, you got to have the right group for Vampire the Masquerade, because if you don't, it's going to be a complete.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess someone could play it and be very much like What We Do in the Shadows or some ridiculous vampire content. We were embracing the whole the tortured goth soul when I played, so that and any Buffy the Vampire style action we could get in there.
Nice.
I even went so far as to play the live action version a couple of times.
Oh, cool.
Not my proud. Look, I'm just not good at it. I felt very uncomfortable the entire time I was there. You have to walk around, and this means they can't see you.
Okay.
And we played in like a public place. It was like a bar district. So there's normal people walking around. The gimmick of vampires, you're not supposed to be. No one can know that vampires are at work. So just regular folks are walking by, and they're walking by a bunch of people. I only did that a couple of times and decided that I was better at tabletop gaming than live action gaming. All right, what else have you got? So far you've told me a couple of things today that I'm super excited to check out. So what else should people be checking out with vampires?
Kronos by Guillermo del Toro, the movie.
Yes,
it's my favorite on-screen transformation process for a vampire. Just seeing Jesus Grease kind of go from just grandpa to vampire. It's amazing. And there's a scene where there's blood on a bathroom tile, and you just see him get really low and lick it up. It's one of my favorite. I think I've stolen that shot for student projects that I was working on a million times. Guillermo del Toro and vampires in general, Blade 2, that kind of, I'll kind of group it together. But he's the way he does vampires, it's still that tortured soul, but they're still monstrous. And I think that's the level that I really look for. I got to see the monster behind the glam at some point.
That's fair. And you're right. He does vampires really well. That's sort of the it's more lo-fi. It's a little lo-fi vampire, right? And I think that contributes to how creepy it is. You said Blade 2, and I had forgotten all about Blade 2 and how much I love that movie.
It's got some of the best and worst CGI in a movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. There is some really bad CGI in it. Especially when Blade is doing his backflip, high fly jumping backflips and pile drivers and other wrestling moves.
Yeah,
it's still my favorite of the Blade movies. I think it's just a great movie anyway. I'm a sucker for the trope of a group of hunters, especially the Blood Pack in Blade 2 was it was written for me to watch. I love groups of hunters that are all cool.
Yeah.
I wish, actually, my biggest complaint with Blade 2 is I wish they'd have had a little extra time. I would have loved to have spent some more time with the Blood Pack.
Yeah.
What a good movie. And speaking of good movies, my next recommendation, I think most of the people who watch this are watching this will have seen this movie, and that's Fright Night. The original Fright Night is such a great vampire. It's a great movie in general, but it's a great vampire movie. It's sort of a great tribute to the ideas of the old horror host, movies and the Hammer movies. I love that. I love the movie. I think Jerry Dandridge is one of my favorite vampires. He's a completely different. He's definitely not a down and dirty vampire. He's very, very, very put together. But I love him as a vampire. I watched that movie on like HBO or Showtime or something when I was a kid. I watched it and House. They came on back to back, and I felt like it was one of the greatest double feature nights of my life, was watching those two movies together. And if you can find it, Fright Night 2 is pretty good too. It's hard to find. I ended up having to buy I don't know why it's not released here, but I ended up buying a Spanish edition that had an English track on it. That's the way I was able to watch Fright again after all these years. So it's a fun movie too, though.
I gotta check that one out.
Next up, what do you got?
I still have Guillermo del Toro on the mind, but he did a series of books called The Strand, I think it is.
Oh yeah.
Those 3 books were awesome. I really dug those. And again, it's like the monstrous vampire. I loved like kind of the mythology of it, or with like the tapping, like the guy's staff and everything, the main vampire, and just the way that they produce them, like the secretion of the curse or like the venom. So many great moments. I actually saw in my minis right here, my D&D character's name is Cetrekian, after one of the characters in the show.
Was that the hunter or was that the exterminator character?
Cetrekian is the old man.
Okay, so the old, sort of the hunter.
Yeah, the hunter. Yeah,
the Van Helsing character. Yeah.
That was a really cool kid. I love that old man in that show. Like the show was great, but the books were better because it got really kind of gross within it.
I think I haven't read all 3 of the books. I did watch most of the show. But yeah, I liked it all. I mean, it was all good.
Yeah.
In the books, I can't remember. Were they little worms in the books?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were, right? That was a fair translation. Yeah, those worms are awful. I can't stand that.
I was working at the morgue at the time that stuff was coming out, so I was like standing there like helping out with dissections and being like, oh man, what a time to get into that.
It's disgusting. I love it so much. It's terrible. All right. Do you have more recommendations?
I think those are like my big, if you're getting into vampire stuff. Did you watch Sinners?
I have not watched Sinners yet. I have my tickets to watch it tomorrow night, so I haven't watched it.
No spoilers, but it is.
I've heard nothing but good things. My big problem with Sinners, before I watch it now, I'm going to watch, like I said, I'll watch it tomorrow. My big problem is I saw the first trailer and it revealed nothing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to go see that movie. And I didn't need anything else. I didn't need them to reveal anything else. And then the second trailer, and I'm pretty good about avoiding trailers. Yeah. I was at a bar and I looked up and a trailer was on the TV, and I just happened to look up at the moment where it revealed. I was like, for pity's sake, I didn't need to know. I already knew I was going to see it. I didn't need to know the rest. And I'm actually a little disappointed that I know as much. And all I've seen is a trailer and, 5 seconds of the other trailer. And I wish I didn't know all that. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think I've heard nothing but great things. Yeah. So
there is one game that I'll plug in case people want to play it. It's an old PlayStation game. It's called Hunter the Reckoning.
Oh, I love Hunter the Reckoning. Are you kidding? So great.
So like, there's like the vampire boss that you fight. I think it's in the first one in the graveyard, and that to me was because we were talking about like the blood pack thing in Blade 2. I was like, that's about as close as I got to living out that dream of being one of them.
Hunter the Reckoning is great. It is actually based on a role-playing game in the Vampire the Masquerade universe. There was a role-playing game. It was one of the later ones they did, because they did vampire, werewolf, wraith, mage, and then Hunter the Reckoning you were a hunter who could see the signs that would allow you to detect who was evil, who was a vampire, or whatever. So that video game was sort of inspired by it. And I remember playing it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't remember all of the battles. I remember that there's a scene in a church, I feel like, where this giant teddy bear chases you around and tries to kill you. And that's upsetting.
Yeah. I remember that well.
Yeah. And I mean, if we're going to talk video games, we would be remiss not to mention Castlevania.
Right.
I mean, the Castlevania games, I played the original one and I played it on Game Boy. And then a buddy of mine really, showed me that you could buy like all of the games and play on your computer now. So I've been, I'm not good at any of them, but I do love those Castlevania games. I mean, they're just so much fun and so and also so frustrating.
Do you have a vampire guilty pleasure thing that like you'll argue with people because it's not the best, but like you love it?
I don't know, but I want to hear yours.
Van Helsing, the Hugh Jackman one. Yeah,
it's not bad, right? It's not.
I love it, but I like at a bar if I bring it up, I am defending it.
I kind of like the idea, John, that you walk into bars, like you walk into like some redneck bar, and you're like, "All right, who wants to talk about Van Helsing?" Starring Hugh Jackman, and you start getting in the call.
Gloria, right here where they talk about it. I kept that one and the first Lord of the Rings one. The rest are in storage, but I have it on me because many a time it'll come up where somebody is like, "Oh, that movie was garbage," and I'm like, "Hang on."
It is probably garbage, but I feel like that was a movie that knew what it was.
Yes,
and they were unapologetic with it, and they said, "You know what? We're going to make a fun, ridiculous monster fest movie," and in that respect, it works. And I think it's very rewatchable. I think it's a fun movie. I think the CGI, even for when it was, is pretty great. I think the designs of the characters I think all the designs are great. I'm pretty sure, isn't that the one where if they're a werewolf, if they're a human and they run through a moonbeam, they turn into a vampire or to a werewolf for a second, and then they turn back into human form?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty ridiculous, and still I loved it. I mean, it was what I've started in recent weeks. I call it intentionally dumb, and that's okay. I mean, I don't feel like they sat out and said, "Well, let's make a very serious vampire movie here." They said, "Let's make the most ridiculous thing we can," and it works on that respect. I don't know that I have any vampire guilty pleasures. I do like Van Helsing, so I might just take credit for that one. That one too. There's one of the Howling movies, which is, obviously a werewolf movie, but one of them, and I think it's the fourth one, not 100% sure, where a vampire runs a carnival and a guy comes to the carnival and there's werewolves. I haven't seen it in, 30 something years, but I remember there was a vampire running the carnival, and at the end, I think the character gets bitten by a werewolf and a vampire at the same time, so he becomes like a uber werewolf or whatever. And even though I haven't seen it in years and years, I still think about that movie a lot for some reason. And he was a very Nosferatu looking vampire. But as I say this, I do have my guilty pleasure. There's a show called Kindred the Embraced, which was an adaptation of the Vampire the Masquerade role-playing game. It only lasted 8 or 9 episodes. You can still get it on DVD off Amazon. I'm sure it's streaming in several places. But it was their adaptation of the Vampire the Masquerade role-playing game, and I thought it was great. I mean, it was 90s. The 90s is stamped all over it. unlike a vampire, Kindred the Embrace did not age gracefully. It definitely aged, but I still loved it. And what a, I mean, I know that, role playing games have kind of become mainstream now and everything, but think about that. That was in the 90s. They did a TV show. They greenlit a TV show about a role playing game, and yeah, it's got some bad episodes, but it's got a lot of great episodes and great moments in it.
I'll have to check it out.
All right, so John, I know you've written dozens of stories at this point, dozens of comics. If you have the chance to visit John at a convention when he's set up selling books, I'm just gonna say right now, it's a spectacle. It's you don't skimp on your table, and you capitalize on every inch of the table you have at whatever show I've seen you at. So I just need to tell you, just if you're at a convention where he's there, make sure you go by his table, because it's always a treat. You have all sorts of cool things, and you write a ton of different books, and I know you've written some vampire stories. So let's talk about what you've got going on, the stuff you've written with vampires, but also just stuff you've got going on here in the future.
Yeah, we're wrapping up my series Starved Rock. So issue number 4 of that one will be coming out soon, and that'll be the our first trade paper. So I'm pretty excited about that. But it's a Wendigo story. But for vampires, we have a Lockjaw and Stiletto short, which centers around a church where the priest and the nuns are all vampires, and they all worship this Aztec blood god. And Lockjaw's job is to go in and just save the organist, because she's the only one left alive, because the vampires need music in order to celebrate. So it's fun. Lockjaw is kind of my Van Helsing, even though I have a Van Helsing in Lockjaw, but he is my monster fighting guitar player, and he's a lot of fun. So if you like monsters, you like that kind of versus creatures thing, it's definitely going to be Lockjaw. But I wrote a series called Cinema Muerte, and our main villain is a vampire. It is Gamazos, which is like the Aztec blood vampire god, or the Mayan blood vampire god, but he's a recurring villain throughout it, but he's kind of more of like a Mr. Burns type in it. So like rich, wealthy guy, but he has a vampirism problem, but it's a lot of fun. And I love writing vampires. I think every time I write them different. I kind of write them like, oh, what style of vampire do I really want to do? So this new project we have going on called Sanguine Bond, which is a story about like a family, but they have one relative is a vampire, and it's like the secrets we keep to keep the family going. And it's a lot of fun, but that is my down and dirty vampire story that I'm so excited every time I get like an art page or something back. I'm just like, this is what I wanted. Like, this is the creepy, scary, bloody vampires that I've been trying to write this whole time.
Love it. Hey, that's awesome. And seriously, thanks for joining me and talking about vampires. I feel like we could probably do it. We could probably talk for a while longer about vampires. We could probably also talk a lot about Robert McCammon's Boy's Life. So we've got
I will
future.
Come back for that. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, thanks for joining me. Thanks for being part of it. And yeah, I will have links to everything we've talked about. I'll link it in the notes, and links to your work, and everyone who's watching, definitely check out John's work, because it's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, John. So it's time for us to answer some viewer questions. The first question, I think they really wanted to stump me. It's a brainstorming question. How would I, as the greatest writer of vampire fiction of all time, make the most ridiculous vampire weakness scary? And that weakness is, in some lore, vampires, if they find numerous objects in a small pile, they have to stop and count those objects. And yeah, I think I know how I'd make it scary, because what if, let's assume I were being chased by a vampire. Let's assume a vampire were foolish enough to match wits with old Cullen Bunn. What if, as I'm being chased by this creature of the night, I just take like a rock. I found a rock, and I just smash my teeth out and throw them on the ground. A bloody pile of teeth there on the street. The vampire's got to stop and count them. Sure, I'm toothless, but I do survive the night. So the next question is about my favorite version of the vampire and my favorite elements of vampire lore. And I think if you watch the interview with me and John, it becomes pretty clear. I like sort of a more down and dirty vampire versus like a European prince. And I like vampires who have weaknesses. I don't want them to be all powerful. But if I were going to name like the absolute, hands down, perfect vampire, it would be the vampire that they're hunters, they're predators, they're ruthless because of necessity, not necessarily because they want to be. I like that kind of tragic element. Being a vampire doesn't have, it can be very tragic. And I like that element that I have to hunt to survive. My survival instinct is what's keeping me going. And in order to do that, I have to kill. I like when there's a little bit of hopelessness to that, a little bit of heartbreak, a little bit of that gothy emo quality that we all love when it comes to our creatures of the night. If you like the kind of vampires I like, I want to make one more recommendation. First of all, a shout out to Yellow Bike Films for helping me shoot this beautiful footage here in this weird dungeon. They did a short film called Pitiful Lost Creature. If you're into vampires, you need to check it out. If you go to their YouTube channel, you can watch it right now. So if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor and subscribe and hit the like button, and then check me out on cullenbunn.com and on my Discord channel and Patreon, and I have a weekly newsletter. So check out all those things to keep in touch with me. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you here next time.